I'd like to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. The first item we have is assignment for request for council action. So Finance Committee, 24201 budget amendments, 24202 elected official salaries 2026 through 2029, 24203 accept 2025 budget commission rates, 24204 increase PO Heritage Aquatics MCRC, 24205 revocable use permit Chef, what is that? 24206, revocable use permit Cypos. 24207, medical mutual contingent premium credit. 24208, engineer design services for South Huntington Street bridge replacement. 24209, amend ordinance 16324 IMGIS statement of work. 24210, sanitary sewer easement for Legacy Hotel of Medina. 24211, Wheeling and Lake Erie Railroad agreement Prospect Bridge. 24212, cybersecurity software and services grant Muni Court. 24213, amend ordinance 18323, Uptown Park and Gazebo. 24213, bids Reagan Park cold storage building. 24214, increased expenditure PO 24079, Littman Parks Department. 24215, expenditure HSH Construction Parks Department. 24216, amend ordinance 7124, signal service. And 24217, purchase of Ventrac tractor 4520N for the service department. The first item we have is 24201. We have budget amendments. We have 2024-046. Keith?
This is moving money around to close out the ARPA stuff.
All right, looks like we just have about 79,000. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 24047. Keith? This is them for the
Jansen, you want
upstairs.
to talk about this?
Jansen, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I'll take this. This is moving some carry forward to fix some negatives as well as cover some future expenses that we're anticipating to get us through year end. I can go through them all, but they're pretty descriptive in
Yeah,
what
you got all the carry forward 1 through 6 there.
Yeah,
That explains them
correct.
pretty well. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 8478, traffic cabinet equipment purchase for the service department. I guess Nino. this
I
is
can
you.
take that one, Mr. Coyne. Thank you. So the first item, item number one, is the $68,460. This is the long drawn-out affair from the cabinet getting damaged at the corner estate in Liberty. We received a check for that amount finally with the insurance company, and this is from asking to have unappropriated funds moved in to the maintenance of equipment line so we could pay the contractor. And you'll see later, the last request, actually number 18, is to increase signal service POs so we can pay them from March of 2023. The other item is to move money in the water department into the equipment for a purchase anticipated later, which is item number 19 for the tractor that's being split between the street department and water, if you vote in favor of it.
All right, any questions on that?
Thank you. Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 24202, elected official salaries for 26 through 29. Keith put this together. He sent everybody a packet of information with all the different, local jurisdictions and what they do. And then there was a study done that, where did we get this big study again from? Do you recall? Is this?
I don't remember. I don't recall. I'm sorry.
Or is that from Westlake?
Is this, yeah, it has Avon, Beechwood, Broadview Heights, Fairview, Menor, Rocky River, Seven Hills, Wadsworth, and Worcester?
No, that's not Opers.
Yeah, it's just, I guess it's from some clerk, all the different salaries of all the different,
Yeah, Lorene put that.
yeah, maybe Lorene put that, okay. But we usually have this, and I think the question we normally have is, we don't usually address this as council per se. The last time we did this, we had a committee set up of the citizens, and they made the determination, came back to us and said, this is what we'd like to see for the city. So I think we probably want to do that again, unless anybody has any objection to that. And I don't recall exactly how that committee was formed. I guess, Kathy, maybe we have to look back a few years and see how they were appointed. I think.
One year we used the people who were on the Charter Review Committee.
Yeah, I think that's what.
We went back to them and said, okay, here, look at this and tell us what you think. Okay, maybe that's what we'll do again, is go back to the charter review and let them know, here's what we're thinking. Do you guys think we need to do anything? Raise it, decrease it, maybe they'll say decrease it, who knows? So we have to ask them. And then they can come back and, make a determination. So we might as well start that process, I guess, correct? Is everybody okay with that? I mean, Keith, do you have anything to add?
I just wanted to point out, at the bottom of this, the OPERS rate to earn a full month's credit towards retirement is currently, it's on the back page of this. It's currently $721.44 a month. Council members are currently paid $765, but that $721.44 is set to go up 1.75% per year. So as of 2028, council members will no longer be earning a full month's credit towards retirement. That one is not hugely important because if you make less than the threshold, you do earn a percentage credit. But for healthcare, in order to earn credit towards healthcare in OPERS, you have to earn $1,000 a month, and if you earn anything less than $1,000, you do not earn anything towards healthcare. So the council president is earning months towards healthcare and retirement, but the council members are not.
So I think that what we need to do is, when we get to ask the Charter Review Commission if they want to take this on and look at, and see what they'd like to say about it, we could tell them about, Keith can inform them, maybe you go to one of the meetings and explain to them all the facts, and then they can make an assessment of what they want to do with those facts.
When is the charter review scheduled to meet again? It's usually every 5 years?
Yes,
Right, we just use the people who served the last time,
yeah.
that's all.
No, I know, but
They're not on schedule to meet again until, I believe it's January, or spring of 2026.
okay.
So we got another couple years,
Okay.
We do that every 5 years.
right?
Not for probably
Right.
three and a half.
So we'll look at that, and then we'll give them that information and, have them look at this and make a recommendation of what they decide. And we'll go from there. Is everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. 24-203, accept 2025 Budget Commission amounts and rates. Keith?
This is a step in the state's process for budgets. They gave us this and we have to accept it.
They gave it to us and we have no choice.
We really don't, but this is based on the tax budget that we sent to them that you approved a few months ago. It's marked here that it needs an emergency clause, but I don't think it actually does because it's a resolution, so it should take effect anyway.
Yes, okay.
Move to approve?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 24-204, increase PO 24-821, Heritage Aquatics from the MCRC. Jansen?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an increase to an existing purchase order to bring our total to $29,000, and the reason for the increase is we lost another chemtrol sensor in our hot tub. That's a sensor that reads the chemical levels to keep the water balanced.
Move to,
Questions?
move to approve?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 24-205, a revocable use permit for Chef. Who's handling it? Is Andrew handling it? Andrew submitted this. Who's handling it? You know?
I can take it on Andrew's behalf.
Okay.
I know what this is.
Okay.
So this request and the one following are for Sipos and Chef's revocable use permit. They're both here. I don't know if they have anything to add, but long story short, we were made aware when locating some property pins that there were two accessory structures that were either in part or in whole on city property. So in the past, the way we've handled these is through a revocable use permit, since the structures were already there and already installed. So I believe Mr. Huber's had an opportunity to review the revocable use permit. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't get to talk with Andrew about this before the meeting. But the language that's in the draft revocable use permit is the standard language from the previous revocable use permits that we've approved. I believe they did add a few sentences on making sure that their revocable use permit is transferable upon the sale of their homes. So that would be, if Mr. Huber hasn't had a chance yet to see that, I recommend that we pass this pending his final approval. They did pay for the surveys of the property, so once the permit is executed, then we'll get it recorded and move on.
Commissioner Huber?
I have not looked at these particular permits. I really haven't been a big fan of these revocable use permits on this issue. I kind of think if I build a building or I have a building on somebody else's land, my job to get it off that land and put it on my land. It's kind of how I look at it. I think the council's been more lenient in that regard. Particularly concerned about allowing this to transfer to the next property because we need to be able to make sure we reserve the right to be able to move these buildings. These are buildings that are not on the land they're supposed to be on. And I tend to think that we need to be pretty clear about that, that we need to preserve our property and keep other people's property off of our property.
No, I get it, and I think I'm looking at one of the drawings that's attached here, and it looks like, you know, one of them's in a gas line easement too, and I guess that causes other issues if the gas company ever wants to come out. But it looks like it's 6.3 feet and 4.9 feet, which is not huge, but it is over the line. And I do understand, and I think when we talked about these revocable use permits, I think we've done some for residential and commercial businesses. And if the structure's ever damaged or destroyed, then it's not rebuilt in the same location. It's moved to the proper location. But I think that, how it happened, who knows? I know the area behind there is a big ravine back there, so I'm sure that there's, you can't really tell exactly where the property line is, but you should know where it is. But again, as long as the revocable use permit, if something comes up that needs to be done, they sign and understand that they have to move it, and it's the way it is. I mean, if something happens. I mean, I would think it would be more likely to be moved by the gas company in this one situation, just because it's right on a gas easement. The other situation, let me see if it's on any easement. No, the other situation it is not. But that's my thoughts. I don't know if anybody else had any thoughts. Anybody have any thoughts on that, Paul?
Thank you. I'm just, one thing I would make sure that before anything happens, that it's thoroughly gone over, because I've seen a bunch of typos in here. But I'm just curious how these buildings got on these properties without any permitting.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I know when I tried to put something up, they needed to know exactly where it was so that I wasn't encroaching on any property lines.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Seipel?
Skip Sipus, 1050 Sturbridge Drive here in Medina. First off, Mr. Sheff and I apologize for the confusion that's brought about by this situation. Nothing nefarious or goofy. Was that we pulled permits, and we relied on a property pin that is not where it should be. And I can't tell you who put that pin there, but I know that's what we relied on when we pulled our permits and had the structures built. And so the request to have it transferable, to me, it doesn't bind future councils because the revocable nature of the permit stays in place. And so given the situation and given the fact that we did indeed pull permits, I think what we're asking for is reasonable and fair. And so I defer to the committee at this point before recommending it to council. But again, I believe it's reasonable and fair given the circumstances.
Questions? Any other questions you guys got?
Okay, hey, you brought up an interesting point. How does a pin get where it's,
Well, some people, I know, that try to remove pins and things, but it's illegal, first of all, because you're not allowed to do that. But it happens, because people see them, and they say, well, if I move my pin, I get a different property line. So, yes, Jess.
If I may, we don't go out and look for encroachments. Once we're made aware of it, typically it's from like properties that are abutting open space where there's dead trees or things of that nature where the first thing we're doing is verifying that the tree is our responsibility by locating the property pins. In this instance, what we found was there were permits pulled for these, but our process, we don't require property lines to be located per se. The property owner's verifying that the shed or fence is being put on their property. So we've changed, Andrew and I have worked, and we've changed our process to where the Parks Department and Forestry Department will be involved if there's a fence that is being proposed that abuts open property or park, where we will go out and attempt to find the pens to work with the property owners to ensure that we don't have any new encroachments happening. So that's been in place. We've already done one of them since this issue came up. Yeah, unfortunately, we were made aware of it, and that's where we are.
Okay, no, I get it. So I guess the question is, if I remember correctly, what was it, probably about 10 years ago, we had the big one at the park by Sam Massey. Was it Sam Massey's park that we had that, where the deck was?
Yeah, it was a little less than 10 years ago, but yeah, you're right.
But yeah, I mean, these issues come up, and I guess the question is, well, what's a solution to them, and what's an equitable solution? I look at it as, in this situation, if it's there and we have the right to remove it if need be, we remove it. And I guess if it gets damaged because of its being there and a tree hits it or something that's on the city, that's just the way it is, and that's not our problem. But that's, I think the revocable use permit addresses those issues and protects the city from those kind of things that are happening, so. I don't know. Anybody else have any questions? So I guess I don't have a problem with either one. If we don't, I guess we could pass each one, it's subject to the law director's approval, and once Mr. Huber goes over them and approves them, then they can get signed. The only question I have, sometimes these permits, maybe the recommendation would be, just so that everybody understands that they're there, because unfortunately, we're not going to be around forever, they're recorded, and that's usually once they're in the chain of title, that's how you find out. That would be the only thing.
If they do a title search,
Well, they always have to do a title search, so people know about it.
and if they read them.
Have we recorded these permits? Are they recorded with the recorder's office?
Not these two, no, but we have in the past. There's one over on Racoa Place.
Yeah,
that was.
we've had several when structures or whatever is in a right of way, and those always get recorded.
Because I think it's better to put people on notice, and that's how you do it. And then at least it's out there for everybody to see.
I think the second question for the committee, I don't know that it's been addressed, is we know where Mr. Huber is. He doesn't think it should have the ability to pass to a next owner. I don't know how the council feels about that. If there's
I
no. if
would
there's no-
prefer that the next owner reach a separate agreement with the council if that's necessary.
Just come
we need
back
to-
and do it again then.
So that we are aware of this. I don't want the city to get into an adverse possession situation or anything of that.
Well, that's why it's
nature.
recorded. Once it's recorded, and it's not that hard to record these things, and then it's in the chain of title, and the next owner, if they claim that they didn't know anything about it, it's too bad on them. The law says they have constructive notice, and they're out of luck.
But I think you should authorize that if there's a transfer of the title.
To get it recorded, you mean?
No, if Skip sells his property to another property owner, I think you need to take a look at it and authorize it.
Well, I guess then what I hear you saying is that we still record it, but there's language in the document that says if there's a transfer, they have to come back to us to get it reapproved. But
Correct.
the only way for that to work, it has to be recorded, because otherwise nobody's going to remember that.
Right.
Right.
I get what you're saying, and then, if that's
fair.
I guess it's helpful. I mean, I don't know what the different use is gonna be from the new owner from the old owner. I mean, it's still gonna be the same shed, using the same thing, and probably looking the same. But I understand what you're saying, and how does everybody feel like that on the committee?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Greg, redo it, because not everybody thinks the same as everybody in this room. And so somebody may see that shed and say, oh, great, I can put chickens in it, for example, or something like that, and violate anything and everything that this has, at least this way. It'll bring it to council's attention. Council can opine on how they feel about it at that moment, and then why should we encumber other people, you know, with our thoughts today? Okay, that's all. I think, I think that's a good compromise.
Jim?
I was gonna say, though, it's revocable anytime we can.
Yes.
Well, the only thing I can see ever happening with this, even if it's recorded or not, is somebody buying the property and saying, well, the shed's here, I'm gonna put another thing over here. And they're just gonna build something else over here, whether they get a permit or not, because some people don't get permit, right? So they'll just do it. So that would be the biggest risk that I see ever happening.
Well, I think what you're talking about and what Mr. Huber's talking about is good middle of the road. I think what the fear of Mr. Sipos, I've not spoke to the other owner, but is that it's kind of like a drop dead date, that if he sells it, it's got to move. I think the fact of coming back and trying to sell it to council again, and if the council's favorable to it, I feel that's a good middle of the road.
I guess
I agree too.
Are you guys acceptable with that too? Because I mean, I know you guys don't like that, but I guess that's the best you're gonna get.
I think that's reasonable, fair. We've talked about that. You're not binding future councils.
Right.
So, but the option is there for them, and it'll be up to the people to make the case, if you want to.
Mr. President, I would agree. I appreciate the dialogue. Again, I'm with Skip here. We built these, you know, knowing where we thought the pin was. I even dug into my hill, excavated so I can push it where I thought it would be okay. So I appreciate any concern that you guys can do for us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let's do that. We'll go ahead and do the revocable use permit. Huber will look at it. It'll be recorded. We'll put language in there that, you know, once it's recorded, that the language that the new property owner has to come to the city to get approval within so many days, let's say, Greg, or it's automatically revoked. That'll get them moving. That'll get the new owner moving for sure. Because that way, if they don't do something, it's automatically revoked. If they try to come back and something happened, they gotta go through the whole process again. So, I mean, that kind of gets them moving. Hopefully, the broker will talk to them, because I know that most residential property owners don't get to see their title, but that's another question. Anything else? Okay.
Thank you,
Okay,
appreciate it.
thank you. So let's do 24205, revocable use permit for Chef first. As I mentioned, subject to law director approval and adding language in there regarding the new owner coming back to council.
So I'll make the motion then for the first one here, that we will grant the revocable use permit, make sure it's recorded, and then we'll add language subject to the law director's final approval that they would have to come back to council.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And 24206.
I'll make the same motion, subject to law director, revocable use permit filed, recorded, and then any change of ownership would have to come back before council.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, thank you, guys. 24207, medical mutual contingent premium credit. Mayor? You guys can stay. It's a lot of fun.
Come on, Skip, you know how fun these could be.
Back in a couple weeks. Thanks, guys, appreciate it.
So, just so council is aware, well, I know that council is aware that the city received the maximum credit, 5%, because of our claims history versus premiums paid. This is from 2023. So the question was, because it's ultimately council's decision, but this is not the first time it happens. We ask One Digital, which was DS Benefits, you know, what have the other cities done? And this is out of fairness. They felt that this is the way that they would recommend, is to share a portion of it with the employees, because it's due to a large part of the employees' participation, as well as the employees recognizing not to misuse ERs and things like that, that we were able to meet that 5% maximum, but also then the city to get a credit as well. So that is basically what's laid out here, but as I started with, ultimately, it's up to the council. You would have a right to keep it all. You would have a right to divide it up in a different manner, and that's why we have it here before you.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions on that? Paul?
What's our current ratio? The city pays this percentage, the employee pays that percentage? Do we know what
It's
that is?
20% if they do not take part in the wellness, and 16%? I believe it's 16% if they do take part in the wellness.
Okay.
And for budgets, we budget as if everybody's going to participate, so that we have enough money.
I think it's fair.
I like it. I think it incentivizes the employees to be a little bit more conscientious about healthcare and themselves, and giving a portion of it, or this half, back to the employees in the manner in which you described in their next paychecks, I think is a good idea.
I'm sorry, not to belabor it, but just one other thing that I can share with the council, in particular with our part-time employees and the Teamsters contract, we always recommend that the seasonals take part in the wellness, because you never know when you're going to get to go to part-time, and then a month or so later you could go to full-time. Well, if you haven't taken part and you're trying to play catch-up, then you've lost that opportunity. So many of those, even though they're not even covered by the wellness program, they're getting themselves prepared so when that opportunity comes down.
Any other questions? Okay.
Move to approve.
And you asked for the emergency clause, sir?
Yes.
We needed that because we only have a limited number of paychecks left in the year to try to get this done.
Thank you. I'll make my motion including the
the 10.
emergency clause.
And my second includes the emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 24208, Engineering Design Services, South Huntington Street Bridge Replacement. Patrick?
Thank you. Council might remember, we were awarded not too long ago a little over $1.7 million grant from the ODOT Municipal Bridge Program to replace the South Huntington Street Bridge. We are required to select a pre-qualified consultant, ODOT pre-qualified. We went through the process and determined that Euthenics Incorporated from Strongsville is the most qualified. I'd like to recommend them for this work. They also did the Gates Mills Culvert Bridge a couple years ago, so we had a good experience with them then.
So we just opened up West Smith and South Huntington. Now we're closing South Huntington. How long is it going to be closed?
This probably won't be until 2026, and it's probably going to be 3 or 4 months.
Okay. Just wanted to, people have to change their driving habits
Just
again.
while we're on the subject, we also got a grant, $1.7 million for Prospect there by Mighty Auto Pro. That'll be about the same time frame.
Well, you can't close all the streets down.
No,
Yes, he can.
sooner than that.
He's done it.
Prior to that, Medina Street Bridge, north of West Smith, will be done next year, and that'll have to be closed for a while.
You like closing those streets?
Yeah.
Man,
That's how you
okay.
make progress.
I guess that's what you call them. Okay. Anybody have any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 24209, amend ordinance 16324, IMGS Statement of Work. Patrick?
Thank you. Council passed an ordinance, I think back in September, increasing our GIS agreement by $2,750 for an enhancement to our program. That ordinance unfortunately did not include language authorizing the mayor to sign the agreement, so this just simply asks for council to give the mayor the authority to sign that agreement.
Nobody okay with mayor signing it?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 24210, sanitary sewer easement for Legacy Hotel of Medina. Patrick?
Thank you. Legacy Hotel, as part of the project, will be relocating the sanitary sewer on their property to be outside of the footprint of the new building. This is the easement they are granting to the city for that sanitary sewer.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 24211, Wing Lake Area Agreement, South Prospect Bridge. Patrick, you're in a roll.
Yeah. Jansen's next, I think. Yes, I mentioned the Prospect Street Bridge. You know that's very close to the Wheeling tracks. In fact, to replace it, we'll be in the Wheeling right-of-way. We'll also be tying in, boring underneath them for the sewer and water. They need to give us a permit to do that. They require that this engineering agreement before they'll even start reviewing the plans.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 24-212, Cybersecurity Software and Services Grant, Muni Court. Cindy?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is just a grant that the state of Ohio has opened up for the cybersecurity software. This will help us, block any malware, anyone trying to get into our emails and our website. I know the city also, Darren also applied for it, so we're hoping to hear by the end of October whether we received the funds or not.
Is there an emergency clause on this then?
There is not, because it's not going to be granted until the end of October. So right now, I applied for it, so I'm hoping by the end of October we'll hear whether or not we receive the funds.
Well, you got 30 days, and then we'll be able to use it until the middle of November.
2026, I think, is when you can use the funds. Until,
Okay, well then.
so we
you're
got
not-
plenty of time.
You're not worried about it?
Nope.
Okay. Just checking.
Move to approve.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Yes, go ahead.
I was just, does this grant require you to use certain software vendors, or can you choose what plays nicely with your stuff?
What plays nicely with our stuff.
Okay.
In the grant packet, you kind of list what kind of packages you're going to use. And so we went through TAG and got some good information from them
Okay,
on what
great.
applies to what we have over there.
Okay, because we don't want to create more problems.
No, we do not, no.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 24-213, amend ordinance 183-23, Uptown Park gazebo. Jansen?
Thank you, Mr. President. This request reflects two changes we're looking to implement at the Uptown Park for any events that are held up there. We have a permitting process which Tracy, the mayor, and I work through for all the events on the square. I believe there's over 100 this year, and that number seems to be growing now that it kind of took a downturn with COVID, and obviously we're ramping back up with events. So we've had a couple things come up, and we'd like to make some changes. Our fee structure currently is based on the size of the event. So there's a wedding and gathering fee rate, which is anywhere from 1 to 200 people. There's a small event rate, which is 201 to 500 people, and a large event rate that's 500 people or more. There's several different tiers for pricing based on residency or nonprofit. And then our second tier is for non-resident corporations. We've had some, challenges or questions as to what the legal definition of a corporation is. There's a number of small groups and large events that are for-profit. So we're looking to clear that up by just changing corporation to for-profit in the fee structure. The second change on our permit, we have always asked event coordinators or sponsors if they have event insurance for their event. It was just a yes or no checkbox, but we didn't really have any parameters or explanation as to why, if it was required, if it wasn't required. So I talked to Mr. Huber about it. I also reached out to our insurance company, Weichert, and talked to them, a little bit about what's going on up on the square, the number of events, the size of the events, et cetera. She confirmed with me that there are some cities that require special events insurance. There are some that don't. It's really up to us. We, outside of the Uptown Park, by ordinance, we don't require special event insurance for events in the park, but we do require it for our associations because it's a large amount of people using the space. Chances of an incident happening are higher. So after talking with her and getting back with Greg, we felt that it was a good idea to implement this moving forward by ordinance. So any small event, these are things besides small church services, weddings, et cetera, which would be ordinary park use. Smaller events and larger events, we would be looking to require special event insurance just to further protect the city. We've had a number of incidents lately where our insurance company did ask us if the host had a special event insurance. So we felt it was appropriate. The language and the limitations are the same as what we require of our sports associations. I discussed that with our insurance company, and they felt it was acceptable, and it was a relatively nominal fee to get that if organizations don't already have it. A lot of them already do. Main Street Medina does. a number of church organizations include that, Boy Scouts, et cetera. It's fairly common, and we're recommending it because I believe it would help protect the city.
Questions?
Yeah. Outside of the parameter that you just mentioned, the other organizations that have gotten the permits on the square, what percentage would you say did not have insurance?
I don't have that number. I didn't go through all of them.
Rough numbers, fine.
A lot of the larger events I know have. A fair on the square has it. A lot of the churches have it. I would say probably 60%.
60.
But you're still in a public place, so there's that famous thing called sovereign immunity, so.
Right.
We do have some protection. But I get it, if something happened, there's just somebody to pay for it, there's another person to go after.
Yeah,
And the insurance companies, that's what they're in the business for, so.
right.
It makes sense.
You
And I don't
s-
think he's correct, it's not gonna cost that much.
Yes, I was going to say, you said the cost isn't prohibitive for the organizations to obtain the insurance, right?
No.
Okay.
And they probably, even if they ever, as an organization that's just put together, they could probably take it onto their homeowners coverage somehow and get an endorsement or something, I don't know. They're making stuff up, but.
I mean, there's a lot of, when you're event planning up on the square, it takes a lot of time for the coordinator as well as our city staff, you know, because insurance is just one small piece. We got to have, you know, vendors license for any food vendors. We got to get the health department involved. There's just a lot of levels of protection for the public, and it seems to make sense.
Yep, makes sense.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 24-214, bids for the Reagan Park Cold Storage Building. Oh, this is you, Jansen.
Thank you. So a little bit of background on this project. We used to have a pole barn at the Bennett Lumber property that we utilized for cold storage for a number of years. That building was hit by a tornado in April of 2020, and a good portion of it was damaged, about $40,000 worth of damage. While we were working through the insurance claim on that building caught on fire and burned down and was a total loss along with all the contents that were in it. So since 2020, we've had all of our equipment scattered around, jammed in buildings, sitting outside, trying to work through this project in particular. And we tried 3 different options to rebuild. Our first option was to build outside our compound at Reagan Park, and we discovered our landfill was a little bit more expansive than what we had initially thought. Our second option was to add on to an existing pole barn, 30 by 40 pole barn, and we discovered through our architect that was a little bit cost prohibitive because it needed a roof. It was going to take some structural changes to that building to make it work. So it was decided that it would be in our best interest, because we have to build within our compound at Reagan Park, to raise the smaller pole building and build a 40 by 80 pole barn to utilize the site the best we could. We did geotechnical tests and had plans put together by Architectural Design Studios, and went through the Planning Commission process on August 8th of 2024. And we tightened up the estimate on the building itself for the pole barn. We have a budget of $165,000, including the interior mezzanine, which will potentially be built as part of the project in order to optimize the amount of storage that we have. We have a lot of smaller equipment that doesn't need to use the full height of the building, so by putting in a mezzanine, we can maximize our storage. This building is just for cold storage, so there's no insulation, anything like that other than electrical and a concrete floor. The next couple requests that are on here are to raise the building and prepare the site and disconnect the electric service. So this particular project is to build the 40 by 80 building. We'd look to get that advertised and bid out and potentially started late winter, potentially.
And how much is insurance covering?
We received $119,391 from insurance from the loss that we had in 2020. The budget that I have down here for suggested funding, I have $112,000 in carry forward that I'd like to move from a couple different accounts. One is our sports field account, the other is our Uptown Park account. And I have a request for a new appropriation because I really am hoping that I don't need to completely drain my carry forward out of the home account because we have some playground projects and things that we would like to do this year. But obviously, that's up to you. But I'd respectfully ask for some consideration for an additional appropriation. as
That's why I
construction-
asked. Now, you're asking for 54,000.
Correct.
Where's that going to come from, do you suggest?
I didn't put any recommendations in there. I didn't want to make any assumptions.
Now, do we have any more open space money available in any of those accounts? Do we know if we have that? Because I thought we had some left over that nobody ever even knew they had in there.
I don't have those balances off the top of my head. I know I don't think there's
Because
a whole
Ward
lot
One had
left
the
in there.
most.
Yeah, but then I blew my load.
Did you?
I
You
believe
spent it all?
so.
I don't
think
remember.
I'm pretty sure I spent it all. I'm trying to remember what I spent. It's dog park, right?
I don't remember.
I can.
John, you have to talk to Pat. He's the master of secret stash around here.
If I may, with the budget, the demolition, the site prep, and the electrical work, and the design cost I'm paying for out of our budget. That's an additional about $41,000. So I just need an appropriation to get us to the budget for the project, and whatever comes in under that, hopefully it's lower, and you can have a good portion back.
Well, we gotta make sure what's gonna work, and I guess the question is, I was thinking about the 301 account, but, we have the court project that we have to worry about, and we just modified the allocation of income tax to that account. I think the most appropriate account would just be on general administration for that size of, that amount of money. What do you think,
fine.
Keith?
That's fine.
Is everybody-
What about unanticipated capital? Because, you didn't plan on a fire or a tornado hitting it. And you've got to,
He planned that, come on.
That is true, then Keith's gonna come back and talk to us.
Well, we're going to talk about allocating income tax, so I can talk about what we will need to put in unanticipated. But yeah, it certainly is. I think this is what the unanticipated capital fund is there for, when there's a fire or something like that we don't plan on.
and 54,000 is not a huge hit to that.
Well, plus it's gonna be,
And we are putting money in there again.
is
Right.
everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do unanticipated capital. But Jansen, you have to make sure that you try to save money anytime you can.
He always does.
He does.
Trying.
I had to say it, though, you just gotta say
Yeah.
it,
Because
He's very good.
pretty
just to
good.
scare him a little bit.
Don't make him mad.
Okay, I don't wanna make him
And,
mad.
and the account number for unanticipated the fund is 389, but where we'll take it, the numbers beyond that we'll have to figure out. I
That's
don't know
fine.
which department it'll be.
That's fine. Any other questions?
Make a motion to approve including 54,000 from unanticipated capital.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 24,215, increase PO 24,709, Littman for the Parks Department. Jansen?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is related to this project. This is the cost to disconnect our electrical service and reconnect it so our adjacent pole building has power in the interim.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 24,216, expenditure for HSH Constructions for the parks. Jansen?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is to raise the 30 by 40 pole building and prepare the site, as well as install storm sewer for the future building project.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 24,217, amend ordinance 7124, signal service. Nino?
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is what I was chatting about earlier with respect to signal service and the cabinet that was destroyed at the corner of State and Liberty. We started the PO with $62,000 in the year. We have $3,000 left, and that was without paying the vendor because we have ongoing problems and assessments that need to be done in the traffic signal system. So with the addition of the $68,000 from the unappropriated funds, which is actually coming from the insurance, we asking for a new total of $130,000, which will allow us to pay the vendor from 19 months ago on the incurred damage.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And finally, 24,218, a purchase of a Ventrac tractor, 4520N for the service department. All right, Nino.
Thank you, Mr. President. So Jansen and I have been chatting about this for a while. The Parks Department has a vent track that we borrow quite often, probably more often than what Jansen wants to lend, but he's good about sharing equipment. We share all our equipment back and forth. The unfortunate part is when they need it, we need it, but this unit is versatile where it can be used through the wintertime because of snow removal. They use it on the square. We would likewise use it on sidewalks, as well as cleaning up after a big plow event. We go back and we end up taking a backhoe to the intersections to open them up, and that's an 8-foot bucket, ends up doing more damage. We go back having to do restoration. The water department, likewise, after water breaks that are in tree lawns and in grassy areas for restoration, we end up sending the backhoe in, but the guys have gotten better, and they use Jansen, they borrow the vent track when available from the Parks Department. So that's why the request is to split it between the street and the water department. It'll be utilized between the two.
Whatever happened to those bombardiers that,
This is similar because it comes with the plow, well, we're asking for the plow, a power broom, and then the blower as well. So I know, we started to make a three-way split between 3 departments with public buildings, because my thoughts are on times when maybe it's not in use, we would broom the parking garage, because that unit would be able to fit in, instead of,
but this is always the
Power
time we always
washers.
talked about the schools maybe wanting to participate because you could use it to, in the big snows, to help the kids get to school.
Do you want to wait till tomorrow night till we talk about the levy and the financial shape that we're
I
in right
was-
now?
that's what I just told Reggie. I said, I don't think they're
and we've
I'm
done
just
that.
saying, I'm just-
And we've done that before, Mr. President, if I may, because we have numerous sidewalks that are really close to the street and the curb, and there's not much of a tree lawn, and unfortunately, the way the trucks throw the snow, that they end up blocking the sidewalks, and sometimes pretty high,
Yeah, our mailboxes, they do all that.
that too.
All right, well, no, I get it. I'm just, thinking ahead that, we talked about this many years ago about trying to figure ways to assist each other, but I get the school, situation. But we're positive about the levy, so might be all right. Any other questions?
Move to approve?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there anything else to come before finance? Anybody have anything? All right, the meeting is adjourned.
See you in an hour.